What's happening, guys? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. You gotta love our new little background that we have on here, done by yours truly, Brant Fowler. So thanks, Brant, for doing it. Absolutely
My
awesome.
pleasure.
You're even wearing a blue hat to actually match
I
what's going
didn't
on
even
there.
plan that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Got a new
awesome.
look.
Yeah, new
Yeah.
look. Looks great. Guys, welcome to another episode. Hopefully, you'll have fun here tonight. We're doing something a little bit different with the main topic. Since it is Halloween next week, we're going to talk about, some, scary comics, maybe some movies, stuff like that. I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun. Just because we're not going to be here next Tuesday because it is Halloween and we got things that are going on. So we just want to get in the spirit of things. But of course, we have the cast here, all three of us. Cat Comic Uno's here. Like I said, Brant Fowler's here. And of course, myself, Mike Spider Slayer. So I guess we'll start with the news. There ain't shit for news this week because of New York Comic Con last week. So there's basically nothing. So I guess we'll talk about what there is, right?
Yeah, there's very few. I would say the biggest one probably was the Todd McFarlane announcement of having 10 new Spawn comics. That's crazy. Obviously, last year he did, or maybe it was the year before, but he did Gunslinger, and that, he did more than just Spawn. He was doing other titles, and that was obviously successful. So now he's like, why not do more and have other people write them? So that's pretty much what's going on with that.
I mean,
You're reading all the Spawn ones.
yeah.
Also,
Well, I'm
trivia
not
says,
reading them
how
all.
about
No, I'm not
you
reading them
read
all. The one
Gunslinger?
I'm only, yeah, is Gunslinger. But I'm curious to see what the price points are going to be on all these Spawn books because the main book, I guess, is just like I guess like the main books are the ones that are $2.99, I think. And but I don't know about these new ones. But I'll probably try out a lot of them just to see what they have to offer and pick and choose. And as time goes along, on which ones I want to continue to read, just like any other comic book. Gunslinger, though, is just a book for me that just feels like a different character from Spawn. And he has his own story. He's separated from all the other Spawn characters. And it's been a wild ride, but it's cool to see this universe growing. And, how people have gravitated towards Spawn recently compared to what it was even just like, I don't know, 5 years ago or whatever it is. Ever since 300 came out, like there was this, it got reinvigorated. So I'm excited and I'm happy for McFarlane for being successful with the character.
We do have a couple of comments. Have you asked about the Sentry news? I didn't hear any, so you
I
could
didn't either.
relay.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of questions here. So, Infamous Mike says, "Did you hear Zack Snyder hired Mags Visaggio to write a Rebel Moon prequel comic?" I did hear about that, but I don't think any of us are like huge Zack Snyder fans. So, yeah, I don't think that we had too many thoughts on it, but I heard about it. And then Parker Lux says, "What about the launch of the PlayStation game known as Spider-Man 2?" I don't have a PlayStation, but the game looks really cool.
So
Yeah.
go
Go ahead.
ahead, Brad.
I was just gonna say I love the first game. I recently, like just a few months ago, actually played it. I had it still wrapped up, but I finally played it and I got through the whole thing and the Miles game as well. I love them, so I'm excited for it.
So my neighbor actually has sold us a PS4 and now is letting us use. He has two PS5s. It's like one he
Wow.
won and one he bought, and so he's letting us use a PS5, and he let us borrow the Miles game, and then there's also the new Spider-Man 2 game, which he has a downloaded copy and then the regular disc copy too. So my son and I are playing them together now. So it's pretty badass. Like we're playing the Miles one and that looks great. So I can only imagine what the new one is going to be like,
Yeah.
Yeah, people have been going crazy for it. And again, honestly, I don't usually have a lot of time for video games. But if I had a PlayStation 5, I would be playing that game. It looks so cool and a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I did find the Sentry news. It is here. I'm gonna post it in the private chat. It's just more. There's 3 people who are becoming Sentry. I don't think any of us are Sentry fans. I mean, I'll pick it up, I guess, because it's something different. But
I thought we read that news before.
this comes out in December, so I don't remember.
I thought we talked
they
about
say-
it. It was a cover with like different people that had the Century logo on them and they were flying.
Or maybe
Yeah,
they
we did talk
announced who
about
they
it.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Oh,
that's
we've
it.
already talked about it then. I didn't remember that we did. So there you go. Look through our past videos to find that out. And Wolverine for PlayStation is being developed, so there's also a Wolverine game coming out.
Cool.
All right, next. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I just said cool.
Next
the
up,
Wolverine
yeah, the Wolverine game. It does look interesting enough that they're doing that and doing an X-Men version of the Spider-Man stuff. But next up is Skybound is promising a shocking end to the Void Rivals first story arc. What do you guys think is going to be the ending? You guys have been reading the book.
I couldn't tell you.
No, because it's I don't know where we're at. It's not like what is the end of the arc? Is it like
Does
did
it
they
say what issue?
I
Yeah,
think it's at 5.
so that's next
Look.
issue.
Yeah, I think it's the next issue.
That's tomorrow. It comes out tomorrow.
No, it's
doesn't
issue
it?
6. I'm sorry, issue 6.
Issue 6.
okay.
Okay. So I mean, maybe it'll be more clear after tomorrow's issue, but like where we left things, it's very up in the air. Like what's going to happen with both characters at this point. She turned on him and it's got him captive and that whole thing. So that's kind of where we're at. So something big must happen in tomorrow's issue to lead up to some kind of shocking end, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, what happened at the end of the last year? She got locked up with him.
Yeah,
And
that's
then-
what
But oh my God, what was it? I felt like it was like the father knew.
both
The
worlds
fathers
knew. Yeah, that's what it was.
Right? They knew
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah, and
So
they knew that they looked like each other. Yeah.
Right. So that was it. I don't know, man. The only thing I couldn't even, unless someone dies, like maybe one of them dies. I don't know. I just couldn't. That's what's good about the comic. It's very unpredictable. You have no idea what you're going to get out of it, you know?
Yeah, and it's like you don't know if they're going to tie more of the other properties into that final arc, or if they're just going to leave that hanging for now. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, we had an interesting comment, and mostly just because I wanted to spin it to a different topic. But Tevia says, "Did you see the DC Comics solicits?" And I guess the topic I wanted to talk about with that is that I feel like solicits used to be a big deal because you'd actually get news drops. And now it doesn't happen ever. Like I don't remember the last time I looked at a solicit, honestly, unless I was like looking to see which comics I was getting. Like the solicits used to actually like tell you something. Now it's either the news has already been announced or there's just nothing they don't reveal a lot.
The only time I look at solicits now is if I want to find out what a cover looks like.
Yeah.
That's literally it. So.
And I don't really look too far in advance.
I don't really look at them either so much. It's like you said, though, a lot of the times the big ones, they announce it before the bunch drops.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting. Sorry, I'm chewing a Reese's. Yeah, I'm in the Halloween spirit.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
I don't usually eat candy that much, but because I'm not a big like chocolate or like sweets fan, but you can give me a Reese's and I'll probably eat it. So Marvel and DC Comics solicits mean nothing now. They're more, I would say, for what the retailers are going to buy later. It's more in that vein. I think it's important, but yeah, I don't know if it's not important, but at least to me as a buyer, it's not important. I'm sure other people maybe still enjoy it.
I think just the whole dynamic of it's changed where they release all the information so early to get some buzz going that, like you said, Kat, there's not that surprise in those solicits. There's not this big thing dropping. It's stuff we've already heard about 2 months ago. and we've already talked about and we've already processed. And so it's just like a reminder, hey, this is coming out. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, then you got all the like Marvel preview books and all that other stuff where that like it gives you almost 3 months worth of comic books that are coming out, like 3 months in advance. So you already know that what's coming out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never know what to do with those books because a lot of times my comic books are really good to me just because it's like kind of part of what you buy. And I'm just like, I don't I just kind of I know this is sacrilegious, but I throw them out most of the time. I'm just like, I don't want them. So I just throw it out. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, it's okay, I don't want it. But yeah, most of the time I don't want it. I just like I know what comics are coming out. So
I'll
uh
look through it and then I'll get rid of it afterwards.
you
Like there's
throw it
no
out though, right? You don't like
yeah,
keep
there's
it.
no reason to
Okay.
hang on to them.
I
Yeah.
don't
God,
think
I
so
have
either.
enough crap as it is. I don't need to hold on to those things too.
That's how
Yeah.
I feel. Like sometimes I think back in the day I would look at it a little bit more because maybe like Runaways is coming out and I'm like, oh, I really want to know what's happening in Runaways. But now it's like those books that had like 30 issue, I don't want to say arcs, but like long form comics don't exist as often. So like, oh, I really want to see what's happening in Mortal Hulk issue 55. Like that doesn't exist as much. So it's a lot story arcs are a lot shorter or comics are a lot shorter that I don't really read into be like, oh, what's going on next with these characters? Because usually it's not told over there. You're not getting any spoilers.
Yeah.
But let's get into the next thing here. So Edge of Spider-Verse is returning. And I'm so torn on this because great, you know, it's a annual thing that they're doing now, but also I've never really liked them. So I'm just like, oh, who is this for anymore?
Yeah. It's, I mean, when I read that, I was like, seriously, but I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, Spider-Verse is a big thing now because of the movies and stuff, but it's like I've not enjoyed them and I'm not looking forward to them. And it's like I don't want to keep getting burned. And it's like every time I hear one of these now, it's like, do I even want to try it? But I do because I'm a Spidey fan, you know.
When is it coming out?
I guess it's 2024, so probably
Yeah.
January. Let me check. Let's
So what
see
is
if they
it?
got
Just
a
like a
date.
6-parter thing like all the other ones that been coming
Looks
out?
like it's 4 issues actually. So
4
there's
issues,
4
Oh.
so that even
issues,
less.
and you have first appearance of Weapon 7, and an exciting comeback of Spider Bite.
Oh, Spider Bite. So.
Those are not even that exciting of characters to explore. And
Well,
this
Spider Bite was pretty cool in the movie though.
yeah, but any of the movie characters I feel like haven't been as interesting in the comics. I think Spider-Man India is a really good example of that, where that comic came out. I'm like, this is nothing like the
Oh
character in the
yeah.
movies.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
So I probably am not gonna get these. I don't remember last time I've gotten these, and I don't feel like I've missed out. At least the other time is connected to the Spider-Verse arc by Dan Slott. This is not even
Yeah.
connected to that. It's just kind of random. Any other thoughts on that, or you want me to move on to Believe It or Not, the last? Where's Mayday
Wow.
Parker? She won't be in Edge of Spider-Verse. She had that digital comic. She had like a digital story that came out that I never got a chance to read because I don't have the Marvel digital books. But that's the last time we saw her. Yeah. Anyways, any other thoughts on that? I think Brant, you were saying something.
No, I wasn't. So
There,
I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah.
right?
It's
Honestly.
not like it's huge, you know. So
Mike and Nike Cap guy.
Nike Cap
really?
guy. What do you believe will be the outcome of the
10
gang war?
w-
Well, at least you
Wait a
got
minute.
Parker Luck.
Yeah.
You call Brant Nike Cap guy. I don't even get included in this. And then
Not even 10 years, people. 10 years. And I've been everyone else, the other guy. Now I'm Nike Cap guy. My name is Brant. I've been here forever. It's fine. It's cool. It's a running joke. I'm happy. It's good.
But Nike Cap guy, what do you believe is the outcome of Batman's Gotham City War? I will say that was almost a topic for tonight. Was what do we think of the war? But we decided maybe we should wait until it's over to talk about that. But
It's like
I mean,
we
I don't.
want it to be over, so maybe
I
yeah, but yeah,
desperately am ready for this to be over. Nothing has
yeah.
happened.
I mean, Gotham War was advertised as one thing, right? Catwoman versus Batman. It turned out to be Batman and Catwoman versus Vandal Savage. So
Yeah.
it's a completely flip of what it was supposed to be. And
Exactly. That's like I guess, well, maybe no, we won't talk about it. I don't know because I don't know if it was in the doc or not. But yeah, when it came to that comic book, I'm like, what am I reading now? This has nothing to do with any gangs, right? It's all Vandal Savage. And again, it still feels very inconsistent from what we were getting, even in the Batman comic. It seems like a completely different story almost.
yeah, I
No.
I mean, I guess it's the name still makes sense. It's a war for Gotham, but like if you're Vandal Savage or whatever, some despot that's been around forever, and you're just going to focus on one city, that doesn't even make any sense. It's like be a world conqueror at least.
Yeah,
Raise
exactly.
your expectations, dude. But no, I'm kidding.
He has to start
Um,
somewhere, and that's Gotham for
I
him.
guess. I do think the concept of gathering all these Lazarus items is interesting, and like there's more ties to that whole thing that's obviously in the Batman mythos, and that it's more powerful than we ever thought it was. I think that's interesting at least, but it's just not what we were told this story was about. And that's where the disconnect comes in for me. And then it's been so abrupt, introducing Vandal Savage and Scandal Savage and all that stuff. So it's just not as good as I'd hoped. So
We do have the question from Serenity. Y'all dressing up for Hallows Eve? Not this year. I don't have any huge dress up plans, but yeah, no, I don't think so.
I
Maybe
don't
I'll watch
know
some
if I
scary
am
movies.
either. I think it depends how I feel. I don't know. We'll see.
I couldn't
I
tell you the
went
last time I
to
dressed up on Halloween.
I went to a Halloween event last week, but I didn't know it was a Halloween event, so that might have been an opportunity. I found out when I got there. I was like, "Oh, should I have dressed up?" And then my friends were like, "Nah, it's fine." And we went to like a zoo, and it was like a Halloween thing at the zoo. I was like, "I thought we were just going to the zoo," and it's like, "No, it's a Halloween event." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I should have dressed up," but I think that I lost my chance on that one. Let's go into the last topic here, which is Ryan Parrott wears Power Rangers. He's doing one of those like one shots for the Power Rangers, which is the Power Rangers Unlimited, the Morphin Masters. This has to do with the world he built with Kimberly, which I love. I really love the future Kimberly. I think she's fun. And it's cool that he's coming back. He's a great Power Rangers writer. He's a great writer in general. So yeah, I'm excited and I'll pick it up. I usually don't like the Power Rangers Unlimited, but for this I'll definitely be reading it.
Yeah, same thing. I don't read the unlimited stuff, but if Ryan Parrott's on a Power Rangers book, I'm definitely going to pick it up.
For
And
sure.
I will not be picking it up. So there you go.
No, I can't believe you read Rangers Academy, but the ones that
You're right.
But one thing I
the,
read, and it just like reinsures for me not to read more Power Ranger stuff.
yeah, that was not a good jumping on point one. I would say if you were gonna get into Power Rangers, and I guess this is for anyone listening, Melissa Flores, when she took over, she took obviously it's a new run. I don't remember what issue it was. A couple issues ago. She's doing a really good job, and I think it's new reader friendly enough. It's hard because it's a book that's up to like 116 now, so it's like, what is new reader
Yeah,
friendly anymore?
right.
It's definitely far in. But I don't, you don't need to watch the show to enjoy the comic, so go check it out.
Right.
But let's get into our main topic, which is what are some horror comics we want to recommend and some horror movies, which honestly I feel like I'm more interested in the horror movie conversation because I love a lot of horror movies. I like
Yeah.
horror in
I
general,
did
but
see
there's
your
not
top 10 list.
yeah, my top 10 list is a
It's
surprising one. So mhm,
it is. Yeah.
right?
No, go
It is a
ahead.
good
Yeah.
mixture. Oh no, I was gonna say so for my newsletter, if you guys want to check it out, I'll actually put it in the description here. I did a top 10 horror list, so I'm glad you got to check it out. I love horror films and we watch a lot of horror films. So we're like, let's make our top 10 list for Halloween. And I think there's a good mixture there, but I think there's no secret that I really like slasher films. But yeah, no, I'm more excited to talk about the movies because I think comic wise, there's a lot of good horror comics out there, obviously, like Lock and Key and stuff like that, but currently, I don't know if there's a horror book that I'm like, "Wow, I'm really loving that book." 'Cause, like, the last one I probably really, really liked was Specs, which was a couple of months ago at this point.
I mean, you'd classify something as Killing the Children as a horror book, wouldn't you, Mike? Or
Yeah,
at least in that
absolutely.
vein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm way behind on that book, but that's the main one I can think of like right now. That says that for me. But
I would say for me, it would be Ghost Rider.
mm,
Um, Hulk actually is a pretty, you know, grotesque book, especially the story arc that's going on right now. Jeff Lemire's writing this book called The Tenement, which is actually kind of creepy as well, where it's like a bunch of people that live in this building, in this like big apartment building, and they all are somehow connected when this one guy winds up dying and they open up this door and it goes to like hell. It's just like it's very disturbing. um we talked about, I know we'll talk about hack and slash, but hack and slash is a slasher thing, so which is kind of good. There's always been books out there that, probably in the past that were really good. Yeah, Lock and Key was another one. I mean, Lock and Key was a
oh, Lock
really
and Key's
good book.
fantastic. Yeah.
I
Oh,
think,
so good.
Revival's a really, really good horror comic if you guys haven't read that.
I, I have not. I read one issue for a podcast years ago, and it was really. I keep meaning to go back. It's on my list, but yeah, I've
It
heard really
ends
good things
well
about
too.
Revival. Yeah.
It's a good book. Like if you get I'm guessing there's an omnibus out there. Get the omnibus because it's like a good beginning, middle, and end for that book. American Vampire, I really like. It's one of my personal
Hmm.
favorites. I think Scott Snyder does a good job with that. Someone mentioned Incredible Hulk, which I kind of completely forgot. Like, yeah, that's a great comic right now. That's a horror, and obviously Immortal Hulk. I think it depends on what's so great about horror is that there's so many different genres to it. Like obviously Incredible Hulk is more monster movie horror. Hack and Slash is more slashers. Uh, Basket Full of Heads is a slasher that's really, really
Hmm.
good. But I love when you're reading something like, again, I think Specs is a great example, or even Red Mother. Like that's a book that all
Yeah,
three of
Yeah.
us were
I
like,
was going to
wow, this
mention
is
Yeah.
that
really
That's a
good.
good
earlier. I
one.
thought about that.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, Red Mother." I remember when that came out. That was
Yeah.
crazy creepy too.
Here's some comic, and these are all on my list for my top 10 movies.
Yeah. Those are.
Barbarian. Oh yeah, go on, Brent.
No. I was just agreeing. Go ahead.
Yeah, Barbarian in the Menu. I think I recommended Brant to watch Barbarian. I'm like, you have to
Hmm.
watch this movie. It's so good. Barbarian, Menu are good picks for recent movies. Got to finish Get Out, started the other night. Yeah, Barbarian, if you've never seen it, is an incredible movie. Watch it without knowing anything. The Menu
Hmm.
leans a little bit more towards thriller, but as a food fan, I really enjoyed it. And obviously, Get Out is like a really well done movie when it comes to tension.
Yeah. I really like all three of those. I haven't watched Us yet, so that's one I haven't checked out.
It's okay. I didn't
It's
love Us.
okay.
I
Okay.
like Nope more than Us.
Yeah, I like Nope. I saw Nope and Get Out, and both of those were good. But yeah, the Menu, took some unexpected turns for me, so that was interesting. Barbarian takes you on a few twists here and there, so that's good. Yeah, Last of Us. Uh, would you consider Sandman horror? I would
I
kind
would
of.
The comic
guess.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think
I
so. It's
haven't
like
really read
gothic
it, so
horror.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So that's
Tevye
another one.
mentioned Saw X. I actually Saw X this week or last week. Right before the show, I told you guys I wanted to go see Saw X. I
Yeah.
didn't like it because I've never seen a Saw movie, and it is
Oh,
very much,
really?
very much. Yeah, it's like one of the only horror franchises because all my friend Luke, he got me into horror movies. Like he'd always like steer me the right way of like what horror movies to watch. So when I was getting into it, and they're like, watch Halloween, watch Nightmare on Elm Street. And when I got to
Sure.
Saw, I was like, do you recommend Saw? And he's like, not really. And then even when I talked to Phil, I was like, who also is like a really big horror fan, I was like, oh, do you recommend Saw? And he's like, not really. So anyone I've talked to, they're like, it's not really worth it. But I was like, all right, this new movie's coming out, it's getting good reviews, and I never saw another Saw, and it's very much about seeing another Saw to enjoy the movie. So I was like, oh, I might have liked this if I had more connection to Jigsaw, but I do not. So it's one of those franchises I kind of miss.
I've only
I
seen one, and that was enough for me.
I saw like too many scary movies when I was like a kid, and it just
Well, me
like
too.
like I remember seeing the first Nightmare on Elm Street when I was maybe freaking 8, 9 years old, and I was just like,
Yep.
oh my God, I don't want to go to bed. Right. Like, I mean, absolutely freaked me out. I saw The Exorcist when I was really young. I saw The Shining when I was really young.
Shining is
And like
scary if you're young.
those movies creep the hell out of me, man.
Yeah.
Especially The Exorcist. So I just saw the new Exorcist movie.
I heard it
Like
was
I saw
bad.
it. I went to Halloween Horror Nights, and the house itself was like insane. It scared the crap out of me. I liked it. I liked The Exorcist. I thought the new movie. I thought it was fine. It was creepy, and just again, since I saw it when I was a little kid, it's gonna like trigger me. So like there are certain situations in that movie where I was just like, oh my God, this is creepy as shit. I don't want to say it was the best movie I ever saw, but I did think it was creepy. It's not going to give you the same exact tone as like the original, of course, but it was still good. And then when you look at slasher films, like obviously you got the traditional like Halloween and Scream. Like I loved the Scream movies. I thought,
Did you see
when the
6? Did you
no, I
see
have
Scream?
not seen 6. Yeah.
6 is my ranking is Scream 1, Scream 4 because I love Scream 4, and Scream 6. Like Scream well, honestly, Scream 6 is probably a better movie, but I just really like the killer of Scream 4. But Scream 6 is a good ass movie.
It is
I
Uh-huh.
really
feel I've
good.
seen it
Yeah,
like
I
6
agree.
times.
Wow.
He constantly watch even like he was going on a trip to the Philippines, and he has watched like he watched it again in the plane. I'm like, "What isn't there other movies you wanna see?" But he really likes that movie. I love it. There's some good scenes. Scream in general, I love that franchise. I think it's the most consistent franchise.
Yeah, I
No,
think it's
it
good. I think people really like the franchise.
it. I mean, there's a lot of mystery in it, and there's a lot of red herrings throughout the whole franchise. So it's good in that
Yeah.
way. It keeps you on your toes. Yeah.
And they
Um.
make it refreshing. The name changes says Scream 5 is a good movie. I hated Scream 5. I didn't like Scream 5. I didn't like the killer for that one. What were you gonna say, Brett?
The movie that creeped me out as a kid that I saw when I was probably the same like 8 was Children of the Corn.
Oh
Um.
yeah, I
Mm.
remember Children of the
Yeah.
Corn. Oh my gosh.
I saw the remake
I
of Children of the Corn, and it was horrendous.
Oh, it was
I yeah. Well,
horrible.
I
Yes.
wouldn't even watch it because I was so I was like, nope, nope, I'm done. I'm not even gonna try it.
You know
But
what
yeah, that
movie?
one.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that one really creeped me out. But go ahead.
I was gonna say while it was in my brain, a movie that creeped me out the first time I saw it was The Ring.
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
So I
I
yeah,
can
was
see
like,
that.
I remember just watching it by myself at night one time, and I'm like, what the fuck is this creepy girl? I'm like, what is
yeah.
happening right now, man?
Y'all
I
are gonna
I
laugh
think
at me. Oh, go
uh-huh,
ahead,
go
Kat.
on. No, 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 go for
You're
it.
gonna talk about that?
No, I was gonna
Because I was
it's a
gonna
different
change.
type. Yeah,
Okay,
so go for it.
y'all are gonna laugh at me, but the very first Paranormal Activity like freaked me out for days. I
Oh,
That
couldn't.
I'm
I
right
kept
there
the
with
lights on
you.
like all the time. Jeez.
Right there
that's
with you,
funny.
man.
I'm a
I'm
lightweight.
like, I
Okay,
was
cool.
watching that, and I'm like, her creeping over her husband like that. I was like,
Yeah, like watching him for like 6 straight hours sleep. I'm like,
yeah,
nope,
yep.
nope.
I've never seen the Paranormal Activity, but that's another one where I feel like I missed the boat because it's like I feel like you should have
Yeah,
watched it when it was out, but I didn't see
Even the
that or
Blair
yeah.
Blair Witch.
Witch for
Haven't seen
me,
Blair
Oh
Blair
Witch
yeah.
Witch
either.
at the end of it, that creeped me out too.
Hmm. Yeah.
The name
Anything that people have claimed to experience in real life is like, I don't know, it's more real than like a monster movie or whatever. It's like, oh, that's just a little creepy, a little too close to reality, that kind of thing. Go
very
ahead.
it actually echoes you exactly, saying that
Yeah.
those stuff scares them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of had a different experience with like scary movies as a kid because when I was really young, my mom didn't really like horror movies. So she'd always hype them up and to me and be like, "Oh my god, like they're so scary." I was like, "Oh, man, they must be so bad. She's so scared of these movies."
Mm,
And then in 8th grade, my friend Luke, he showed me Halloween, the remake, and I was like, "This is what a scary movie is? That's not bad at all." And then I just got into horror movies, and I don't think I watched horror movies pretty young, and I never really there's not many movies that have scared me. I think the closest I've gotten to is Barbarian, just because it kinda, like, it's more of an edge of your seat type movie. So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it scared me, but it's definitely, more of like, "Ooh, I feel tension that, like, this girl's gotta get out."
Yeah. I think Mike and I grew up in an age where everything was very anti, like, don't scare the children, don't hurt,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Stay away from it. All this is evil, all of this is satanic and stuff. So we were geared to be go away from it. And so we're obviously gravitated towards it.
Yeah,
So and so I
exactly.
think in that regard, it was probably more scary in that generation just because of the whole zeitgeist about it.
There's
But
more,
also
like, hype.
the way the
Yeah.
movies were made, they were made differently. Like,
Yeah.
you look at them and they're just like now, and they're just like the element that they were made, I felt like is different. There's no CGI. There's just like there's this it looks more, I would say, like if you were to watch it, it's like more realistic. Like you
It's
look
more
at The
visceral.
Shining,
Yeah.
right? You're
Shining's a
just
I was gonna say great example.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like think about it. The guys goes freaking Looney Tunes in the freaking place. Like that can actually happen, and you start hallucinating and you seeing things and
And
like
the
Yeah.
performances are scary. I think that's a big difference
yes,
is, like, all has to do with the performance. I mean, you could say the same thing about Halloween, like, Michael Myers, he's scary because of the way he's presented, and I think The Shining. Because again, is it actually keeping me up at night? No, but am I, like, on the edge of my seat? Yeah, because it is these performances that are just so jarring. It's just a really interesting movie to
It,
watch. Yeah.
it may not keep you up at night, but I swear if I see two twins in jumpers just staring
oh
at me
yeah,
somewhere,
dude.
I'm running. I'm out of
The
You know
there.
same
it you
thing.
know there's a problem.
And then
Yeah.
the part where he goes into the bathtub and he sees that woman and then she rises
Yeah.
from the bathtub. Fuck that, dude. God, that oh my gosh, I hated that part. Oh,
There's a
Yeah.
lot of iconic scenes in that movie that kinda stick with you. Like, one scene that really does I haven't seen Doctor Sleep, I should see it.
I haven't
But
either.
yeah, one that sticks with me is obviously, the wife, like, with the baseball bat, I think is creepy as hell, just because again, the performance is so creepy, and
mhm.
then you know the backstory, like, again, you go back to realism, but, like, how mentally that movie kinda broke her, the actress,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she never really got back to it. Combination said Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like a middle schooler alone in a dark room at night. Yeah, I was unsettled that night. Uh, yeah, see, I always thought that the slashers were scarier than they actually were. So like when I finally saw a slasher, none of them really scared me
Mm,
that much. Especially because a lot of these slashers are more funny. There's a lot of funny
Yeah.
moments. Like Halloween's a great example of that. It's kind of a kitschy movie. Uh, there's a lot of funny moments in the movie, but then when it gets
you watch
serious,
Halloween now and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, how the
right?
heck can Michael Myers like he just walks super slow. And it's
Yeah.
like, how does he catch up to these people, And it's just like, how does he survive all these deaths? Like I watched the first one with my daughter actually. We were watching it together the other night. I'm like, how does he survive all this stuff? And I was laughing at Jamie Lee Curtis on like how young she was. I couldn't
Mhm.
believe it. And just like,
It's her first
but
movie,
like
I think.
she was super like supposed to be like super injured and she couldn't even walk and she couldn't scream to the people to get help. But then 2 seconds later, like they go inside a building, she's like, "Ah!" And she's screaming. I'm like, come on, man. Like they don't
Comment
hear her screaming from outside, like 20 feet away.
they don't
It's
care to
great
help
though.
her.
It's classic though. It's so classic.
Comic Nation said Halloween gets boring fast. Guy walking slow can't be killed. See, I think with Halloween, it's more about the camera angles that really like kind of get you. And I think when it gets, and I keep saying it, but once it gets boring, it gets funny. Like I always think about the scene where the friends walking outside with Jamie Lee Curtis, and the language of that scene, where she's like, "It's totally so crazy. You should totally go." And she says totally 10 times. I'm like, this is like so bad, but so good. at the same time. Midsommar was a recent creepy movie. I've never seen Midsommar, but I didn't like
No, I've never heard
Hereditary.
of it.
It's the same director does Hereditary. I'm trying to think of what else
Okay.
they've done. Midsommar, Hereditary. They've done something recently, but I don't. It's with Florence Pugh. But yeah, there's a
Okay.
lot of good movies out there. I gotta watch a scary movie. I watched Your Next because it's one of my favorite scary movies ever. I think it's really, really good. If you're looking for a slasher movie, I try watching it once a year. It's about this Australian woman who goes to her boyfriend's family house, and then people are trying to kill the family, and we find out she's a survivalist, and she is trying to save herself and the family. So it's a really good movie. Trying to think of what other ones I saw this year. I watched Ready or Not, which I didn't love. I like watching a few scary movies during this season. I gotta pick one for the
What
once we
Ready or
get
Not,
closer.
is that Adam Brody?
Yeah, he's in it.
I just watched that like the night before last.
Really?
Yeah, on
I didn't
Hulu.
love it because it is
No.
very similar to your next, and I think your next did it better.
Okay.
What
I haven't
about
seen your next.
what about shows?
Creepy shows. Haunting of the Hill House, I think is a
Haunting
fun.
of
Yeah.
Hill House
Yeah.
is freaking good.
Somebody mentioned the Fall of the House of Usher. That's the next one in that anthology series.
I've
haven't
heard,
started
yeah.
watching that one
I
yet.
watched the first
Did you?
episode. I'm watching, I think I'm in the middle of the second. It's okay so far. Like, I don't know
Okay.
how far it's gonna take, like how long it takes to get like really scary, but it's all about
Right.
really setting up the characters right now. But the first episode had a couple of decent scenes in it, but
Okay.
yeah, Hill House was
Oh,
creepy. Yeah, that was really, really
yeah.
creepy, man.
It
Oh,
I liked Blind Manor, but it wasn't as scary
It
as
wasn't
Hill
as good.
House.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah,
as
yeah.
scary. Definitely not.
Blind Manor was
I
more of
liked
like,
it.
oh, I enjoyed the romance, and then like the actual scary parts weren't that crazy.
Right. Yeah, but Hill House, man.
No, it's
I
a scary
still,
show.
yeah, it is a scary show, and I know we talked about it. I won't belabor it, but that episode 5, I just every time I think about it, I just get the chills, and it not because it's not the scary factor of it, just it really makes me sad and scared at the same time because of what her character went through. So
Sure.
it's
yeah.
just like, oh, I don't even want to think about that being a something that happens to someone. That's just so
They
bad.
just had a good ensemble for that show too. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
it's a good one. I'm trying to think if there's any. I know someone mentioned the Chucky television show, but it's more more comedic than anything. I was mentioning Phil before, but his favorite franchise like ever is Child's Play. He loves
That's
Chucky,
funny.
and I've
Hmm.
seen one of them because he made me watch Bride of Chucky. But it's a very kitschy show, or well, even in the movies, like one movie is going to be really comedic, and then the next is like, oh man, this is actually horror filled. But what's fun about that franchise is that it's the same creator throughout, so it continues the whole entire time. So that's cool.
I'm
I
laughing because just real quick, Mike.
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
laughing because I'm not a huge Chucky fan, but my brother had a My Little Buddy, and so I would do this to my mom all the time, and it would get her every time because she's just jumpy. I would she'd go into the bathroom, and I would run and grab
Move
My
it.
Little Buddy, set him right in front of the door, put a knife
Oh my
leaning against his hand, and then she'd come
horrible.
out. I know, I'm terrible like that.
Oh, that is horrible.
So funny.
Phil has like a real life model of their child. Glenda has a light like in their house, and I'm like, wow, okay.
Oh, nope.
Yeah.
I remember this
Mm.
wasn't scary really, but I did like that movie or that show on FX, The Strain. And
You did
then,
like that
Oh,
one,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
I remember like that first season of what is it called? The horror show, the one that has oh my god, I had Lady Gaga in it.
Oh, American Horror Story?
American Horror
Horror
Story,
Story,
but
Okay.
that first season was really, really good. I really thought it was freaking creepy as all hell. Like I was like, wow, this is weird shit right here. But I'm trying to think of what else. Walking Dead wasn't scary. I was just intrigued by it, but I thought
Yeah.
that the comic book was kind of creepy in the beginning,
It's
especially
a horror
just
book.
because Yeah, just
Yeah,
because you
for
got
sure.
these zombies going after you, you don't know if this guy's going to survive. It's black and white. I thought that was, that was a scary comic. This is supposed to be a scary comic. Spine tingling Spider-Man,
We'll talk about that.
It says the
Scary how bad
scariest
it is.
Marvel book ever,
Sorry.
I don't know about that.
No.
Had some decent body horror, I guess, in there, but
I will
I don't
say
know.
the very first Resident Evil game, when you don't know
Oh,
the
that
dogs are
scared
going to
me.
jump through the window, oh man, it's like my cousin kept saying, "You got to watch, just wait for it, just wait for it." And then it happens, and they jump through, and I literally jumped. I'm like, I just was not expecting it. But
I love
yeah.
Resident Evil. It's my favorite game franchise. I played Resident Evil 4 so many times. When I first found out about Resident Evil, I was in like 6th grade, and Luke was showing me the game. And it was that scene. He's like, "You're not ready. You're not ready. You're not ready." And I played it, and he's like jumping on my lap. So I think I've said this on the podcast before, but I don't get scared from pop ups because anytime I watch like a pop ups thing or like a game like Resident Evil, I'm more scared of Luke jumping into my lap than whatever is going on in the show. So like as a
Yeah.
child, I
Yeah.
physically have more going on with the jump up scare than what's actually going on the screen. So
Gotcha.
I love
I
Resident
even if
Evil and the show and the
e-
movie too, not the show.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I do too. Even if I know a jump is coming, I still jump. I can't help it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
It's
me
just like,
too.
oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
It's the fun of it all. Tevye asks if I played the remake. I don't have a PlayStation 5, so
I haven't.
I
no.
loved Resident Evil 4, man.
It's
I
such a good game.
played the heck out of that game when it was on GameCube. Oh
Oh
gosh, that
yeah,
was
yeah,
so much fun, that game. Because it was different, because it was like it wasn't a first person shooter, but you were like right behind the guy, right?
And
And
you get
so
to collect things, which is fun.
yeah,
I played it on
right.
the Switch recently, which I get is not the best place to play it on, but I had a great time just like replaying it. It was just like
Yeah.
because it's also a longer game too. It'll take you a little while to get
yeah,
through it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it has
You
a good
remember
story.
first you remember the first time shooting the person, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot him in the head," and then all these freaking things keep
Yeah.
popping, like all these
yeah.
tendrils pop out of his head, and you're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
No, I totally no, I love that. I love the aesthetic. I think it's just it's such a good game. And I also again I like the movies too. I enjoy it. Like they're weird movies. They're very early
Yeah,
2000s, but I
yeah.
recommend it. Especially the first two. They get a little crazy after that, but the first two, especially the second one. I like the second one a lot.
I like them all, but yeah, you're right. You got to be just like understanding that it's not like
It
scary
is.
or even thriller. It's just like it becomes like a popcorn thing. But I still enjoy them quite a bit.
It's
Yeah,
fun to watch with a
they're
crowd.
quirky. Yeah,
They're fun
We
movies.
were talking about like, I wouldn't say this is really scary, but like Spider-Man comic wise, like Craven the Hunter is a pretty dark
Sure.
comic. Like right? Like that. I would think that storyline is pretty dark. And when you read it and you see like Spider-Man die and he's in the grave and he's crawling through tunnels and he sees spiders and everything else, like
yeah.
I would think it's a pretty dark comic to read.
I'd
During
call it a
spooky
horror
time.
comic. It has a lot of
What's
horror
that?
elements. I'd call it a horror
Yeah,
comic. It has
Yeah.
a lot of horror elements in it. I mean, even the grave, you'd think about like the tension that it builds. So
Hmm.
I think it plays off
I
of a lot of horror.
I would even say the first Venom story where he's like stalking Mary Jane and all that stuff and
Mhm.
getting in Peter's head
Oh
and
yeah,
showing up out of
that's
nowhere.
right.
That's definitely horror vibes. Yeah,
Yep, that's it. Because no one expected like him to be so violent, and what he did to Black Cat also was
yeah,
pretty brutal also. So yeah, I agree. It's kind of scary. I mean, Marvel doesn't come out with very many scary books. I feel like in this past year they've dove more into horror element stories. I feel like they're
yeah,
trying to do that, which is, I guess, for me at least, I like that. So I think it's good, um, because they've been kind of successful. Blade's been a little bit more on the
yeah.
horror side
And
of
they're about to
things
do
as
that.
well,
Yeah, they're
right?
about to
So
do
that
that blood
there's
event.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So that's kind of cool. But
There's a new
yeah, I
Marvel
mean,
Zombies book coming out tomorrow. Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt
no,
you.
you're good. Keep going.
I was just gonna say there's a new Marvel Zombies book coming out tomorrow.
Oh, the red
Black, white, and
white
yeah,
blood, and whatever.
yeah,
all the same title, basically. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff out there that you can read that, yeah, they even have the traditional old school comics like Creep Show and, Tales from the
hmm
Crypt, like
Sure.
all those
all
old
the EC
comics.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look at
I mean,
some of the biggest creators that are out there right now. James Tynion and Scott Snyder made their career
yeah,
off of horror. Joe Hill. There's a lot of horror comics, and there's a lot of horror within comics because of, again, pacing. I would say is a big thing. So I think it works for comics very well.
I wouldn't say like this is really horror as much, but World Tree is a pretty dark, comic book as well. Um, You had the Nice House on the Lake.
yeah,
That was kind of a, scary book, right?
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
thriller, scary. Yeah, I mean, it's post-apocalyptic. I think there's a lot of different genres mixed in. I only read the first three, but from what I know about it, it was a mixture of a lot of different things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. So I guess that's our topic. I had some fun talking about movies,
Yeah,
even video game. I wasn't expecting to talk about video games in there
Yeah,
either, but we did find a few
yeah.
of them. So,
if you're gonna mention
uh,
Resident Evil, we're gonna talk about it.
yeah. All right, so I guess we'll dive into some comic talk. I read a lot of comic books this week.
I did too, and I was
Me
telling Mike
too.
tomorrow. There's a lot of books coming out. I'm reading like 17 of them tomorrow. There's a lot for
I'm
me.
counting.
This week I had, I think, 14. Yeah, I had
I
14 books this week. I had to drop some of them because I there was too many books.
I
23.
had 20. I had
Wow.
22. I only got through 21 of them, but I had
Yeah.
22. Yeah,
I had 23. I read 22. It was Titans I again to get through. So that
yeah,
that was it. That was kind of it. Literally was legit on my last like books that I wanted to read this week because that's how
yeah,
like my excitement level is. Like think about that. 23 books and it's the 23rd one that you want to read, right? It's like
yeah.
you
Again,
look
you missed
through them,
nothing.
and it's like Titans, nah. And then after you read another book, Titans, no. And it just keeps going down and down and down that list, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, dropping books, if you that's why it's good. If you don't like a book, drop it, save you some money, right? And then you can pick up something else or maybe pick up a back issue or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but let's dive into it here. I am not even on the
Get on
dock
that
at
dock.
all.
Oh, we're
Man,
at
oh
the book that
man.
I read last, right before the show.
Well, May Brent, you know what? We are up. I know Mike's getting it ready, but we're up to Superman. So how about you start
Superman.
it?
Yeah,
Yep.
You start it because
yeah,
you have recently read it.
yeah, yeah. So, what I like about this issue is that again, it's a milestone issue, anniversary issue, but even though we got a little bit of that, it continued the story. And I love the way that they did an anniversary issue in this issue. You had like several characters, Perry, Brainiac, and Lex Luthor, kind of recounting their first meetings with Superman and what he means to them, but within the context of the story. And it still progressed the plot that we've been reading from issue to issue. And I really enjoyed that. I also like that you have this villain that the entire super family is having a problem with. So it's like a next level villain, and it's not just some random thing that they can just take down, just like that. And it's taking their combined forces and Lex Luthor to even come close to challenging this guy, which I think is just fresh. It's, we haven't seen somebody at that level take on Superman since probably Doomsday. So
And we still haven't
I thought it was
we
good.
got his
Yeah.
name, but we didn't get like who he was.
Well, based on his last name, I'm wondering if it's tied to the prison because they said Sammy Stryker and it's Stryker Island or whatever. So I'm thinking he's related to the prison some way. But
I could
Okay.
see that. You guys can hear me okay? Because my
Yeah.
AirPods died.
yeah,
So. It is now just my laptop. This is an interesting issue because I don't think it's as good as the previous Superman issues because it's so bloated. But I agree, like for an anniversary issue, it's better than you can expect. It actually continues the story. It's very point A to point B. It's like, all right, action, action, action. Here's a cliffhanger with Lena Luthor and Lex's mom, and then Brainiac's here too. Which is like more pushing towards the plot. Art, I think, is really good. I think it fits for this. I don't think it would fit for every book, but it feels very 90s and it works for this book. I like it. Again, not the best issue of the run, but this is such a good run. If you're not reading Superman, check it out. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I liked it. I agree with you, Kat, when it came to the bloated story part. I mean, I appreciate that they didn't do different stories, right? But at the same time, it was like it felt a little bit too long. It felt a little bit like too much of each thing that was going on. You got Perry, he's going for mayor now. So so that I was like, man, we've seen this before in Marvel where we got Jay Jonah was mayor. So now we got Perry as mayor. So I'm like, yeah, that's nothing new there. But, it still was a good issue. I did like it. And I just think this series works best at normal page count. That's what it is for me,
No, I agree.
It was just like, oh yeah, let's get more pages, obviously, because it's anniversary issue. But it's fine. It's fine. It's a good book. I love the book overall.
It was somebody you flashed it up a second ago, Kat, but mentioned the Caesarians, the Lobo race of people. I thought that was an interesting way to introduce a future plot or subplot, though, was to do that little backup with Brainiac. Yeah.
Remember, they introduced them. Was it in a Superman book though in the past? Because we talked about it, where it was a bunch of Lobos.
Yeah, I know we talked about it. I couldn't remember if it was actually in a book or if it was just announced or okay.
Yeah, it was briefly. It was something that we read in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. I just don't remember what book it was.
Yeah, I don't either.
So, all right. So we all seem to liked Superman, right? All right. Let's talk about Brant and I, at least anyway. Let's talk about.
I almost picked this up, but because I had so many books, I had to drop it. So I'm like, I'm not even reading Iron Man. I read one issue. I don't feel as dedicated.
What made you almost pick this up, though?
What made me almost pick it up because of the wedding? Because I read the last issue for the wedding.
Oh, that's right. You did read the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I read the last one, and I've been reading X-Men. So I was like, oh, I want to pick up the next one because it was like decent enough. But because there were so many books, I decided not to.
It was good. It was good because it was like they're on their supposed honeymoon. But there's this medal that, what was it, Emma had that.
Yeah, the Mysterium or something.
Yeah, that Iron Man Tony went to go get on Krakoa. And Krakoa is heavily guarded by the Sentinels there. And he went in his stealth armor to try to get this actual medal. Because this metal is going to, he's going to create a new suit with it. So he can do what, to destroy whatever's going on with the, with the Orcus and everything like that.
Yeah.
But the way that the issue was presented was really fun because she was kind of like the eyes. Like she was wearing special glasses and she was guiding him through where to go. And he went into her bedroom and he was opening up this chest and he found this scrapbook of the Cuckoos. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm going to get this for you. And she's like, no, because that's going to risk the cover, But then at the end, he does do something nice. He does take the book and he brings it to Doctor Strange and says, I want you to keep this in safekeeping for me so she can have this in the future. And I thought that was actually really nice of him to do that,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was fun.
I like the way he tested the metal too. Like he tested against Doctor Strange's magics. He tested against Spider-Man's Spidey sense, and I forget what the other one was, but yeah, he was Captain Marvel if she could bend it, and she couldn't bend it.
And she couldn't touch it. Yeah. So whatever this Marvel is, or whatever this metal is, it's like even stronger than adamantium or
Yeah,
stuff like that. This stuff seems to be like legit. So it's
right.
pretty cool, man.
But at the same time, it was a fun story. It was I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like a must read kick
Yeah,
ass.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But it's just an added again, if you read the X-Men stuff, it enhances the story.
yeah, right.
All right. So let's move on to another book that Brant and I read, and this is Big Game.
This one I didn't almost pick up.
This was
love this
issue
book.
4.
Yeah.
This book is good, man. This book
Oh,
is good.
man.
So at the end of the last issue, Hit Girl gets transported to 65 million years ago. So you're like, okay, she's stuck in the dinosaur age or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And somehow this book manages to tie in to the Empress comic book. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, how this ties in. And it goes back to their rulers and everything else. And she makes her way back to Earth, right? By using the chrononaut technology, but he's dead. And the ruler of that world finds out that they're no longer around in the future of Earth. So that's why they use that technology to go to Earth to rule it in current time. And then there's all this other crazy stuff that goes on, like
so
like
they basically killed everyone in this issue.
Like Kick-Ass is like
Everyone.
people.
Yeah.
Like was supposed to, like, I guess Kick-Ass was supposed to go with the people, and they wound up getting
Starlight was
obliterated.
there. Yeah, the rest of the nightclub that were still surviving. All these characters were all gathered together by the president, and they were all in one room. And then Nemesis just strolls in with Wesley Gibson from Wanted, and they're like, "Yeah, y'all done." And just like vaporizes them all. And it's like, oh my god, everybody's dead except for Hit Girl, who's lost 65 billion years ago or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got the Magic Order people that can't do anything. Like it's like their law to not kill just normal humans, and they got to watch everything go by, and it's just insane. But the ending of that comic book, when you see the whole armada come through. And it's just like, and you just see the dead chrononaut guy there going, oh my God, man. Like it was just intense. I just remember closing that book and I'm like, this is great. I'm like, this is so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you do these, we talk about deaths in comic books, like for shock value, but this is not for shock value. This is like story value. Like this really adds to the story. He's not relying on these deaths to sell these comic books. It's just a really well-written comic.
Yeah, exactly. I
Definitely
agree.
a good thing about indies and having your own universe.
Yeah.
And him building it for 15 plus years, which is surprising enough.
Yeah, that is crazy. And it's funny because you forget about these characters when you don't see them for a while, but they all like trigger in your memory about, like, he did write a series about this character and he did write a series about that character. And you just think you got it figured out and you don't. That's what's good about it. He just puts in a little twist here and there and it's like completely different.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about our number 5. So we'll start with Kat. What was your number 5?
Mine was Local Man, issue 6. This is a solid issue. We get to see our main character cheating on cheating with his ex high school sweetheart, and still trying to work with her husband. And then we also get to see maybe a little past with her. She's in this like lab and it's like, all right, maybe she is part of this like superhero, supervillain thing, or she's hiding something. It's definitely a point A to point B issue of something bigger, but I thought morally it was an interesting issue.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm hoping it gets stronger as it goes on, like the first one. But I I like that she had more going on than we even realized from the first
For
arc.
sure.
Like there's way more to her than meets the eye, and I thought that was the really interesting twist towards the end. So that was the hook. Is like, oh, okay, this makes this even more interesting to me.
So I think I'm gonna drop this book.
Oh, it's so sad.
It lost its momentum for me
Mm.
on the break, and I didn't read the annual. I don't know if it tied into anything.
Not really. I don't.
And then so when
it's a Local Man Gold. It was called.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I did read it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And then when I read it this time, I wasn't into it. I was like, I totally forgot what happened, and this issue was like too slow to me, and I was just like, I just wasn't into it, and I'm like, I don't know if I care now. I don't like when certain comics, and a lot of indies do, like take these breaks because you totally forget what goes on in the comic. And
I think if you take a break, you should have an explosive return if you're gonna take a long break.
Right.
Sure.
Or you need to have a memorable ending.
Sure.
And pick up so you won't forget, and then you can kind of pick up where you last left off that you'll remember. Like this seemed like a pretty I don't know, like in-depth relationship thing going on in this comic, and I was like, I don't care. Like I really don't care. Like you think about Saga. Look what happened at the end of Saga.
Sure.
And it took how long? 5-year break? You still remembered what happened at the end of that issue, right? And you still remembered those characters. Now, granted, Saga had a lot more issues. So that's the thing, though. Like when you only have 4 issues, or whatever it is, and you take a break for 3 months or however long they took a break, it's going to lose that momentum, So that's just me, though. That's just me.
Look, I agree. I think, I think when this book first started, this was number 1, and now it's number 5.
Absolutely.
And obviously, it's in a week where this is not a 4-star book. The one before this book was 3 stars. So that kind of shows you where my list was. But the premise intrigues me enough, and I think the main character intrigues me enough to see where it's gonna go. And I am curious to see what the long haul is. This is Tim Seeley, who did write Revival, which lasted like 50 issues. So I'm very curious to see what the long haul is.
Aside from the annual, it was 4 months. It was June when
it was 4
came out. Yeah, so it was.
Yeah,
it didn't feel that long to me, but yeah, I guess it was. That's crazy.
So that's what I mean. Like 4 months. In a book that only had so many issues, you tend to forget the characters that are in the book, right? So, and you tend sometimes to forget what's going on. Like, I don't know. This is me, though. Especially when you read as many books. If Local Man was the only book I read, then maybe it's a lot different, right? But when you read 20 books, 15 books, 13 books, like month, it's like Night Terrors, like we talked about it. You had new series come out, Night Terrors interrupted the story, and then boom, Shazam. I don't remember what the hell happened in Shazam, so why am I going to continue to read it?
Yeah, no, totally. I get it.
All right. So, Brant, what was your number 5?
Mine was actually Superman, so we already talked about it.
Okay, cool. What was my number 5? Mine was Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. I thought it was fun. Fun. There was nothing here where it was like, oh, I need to take this actually serious. Like, I just like to pick it up and read it and have a good time with it. And I thought like the first issue was a nice little build up to the release of the creatures, right? It wasn't like, oh, very first page, here comes Godzilla and he's going to destroy the whole city. There was actually a good, solid setup. You have Superman proposing to Lois. It's like it was a Super Friends cartoon where you got the Legion of Doom and they were trying to stop the Justice League, and they got transported to Skull Island, and the Toy Man was, got a hold of this like amulet wishing that these creatures would destroy the Justice League. Again, I thought it was just a lot of fun. and then it sets you up for the next issue where you're going to see, hopefully Godzilla and King Kong and all those different types of creatures. So it was a good read for me.
Nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So did you read it? Yeah, I know Kat probably didn't read it. So
No,
you guys didn't read it.
One.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't usually get those kind of books. Yeah.
Right. I definitely had no expectation for it.
Sure.
But when I read it, I was actually surprised by it. So
nice.
Cool. All right. So we all did number 5. So let's go to this one. I did not read this one. So this is Jay Garrick and the Flash.
I was surprised you didn't read it. It was a good first issue. I will say I feel like I got more out of it because I read Stargirl, and obviously if you read JSA, you get a lot of information from this. But it was a really solid story. It's just about him reconnecting with his daughter, who was lost in time, and now they're like 80 years old, and they're like, we have this like teenage to 20-year-old daughter. What do we do with her? And that's the story. It's really about them reconnecting, and I thought it was a really solid first issue.
Yeah, I really like the Stargirl book, and so like you said, it ties into this. That's where she came from and everything, and it's it's a character out of time story, which is commonplace and all that stuff. But I did think the way that it was done was really touching here, because you had them start off together, and then her disappearance, and then them not remembering her, and then her just suddenly there and having to deal with the fact that, oh, we're not the only two now. There's like a bajillion of us, and not realizing the dangers of the world, and them being overprotective because they've been through all this stuff that she has no idea about and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a solid start.
And also the writer who did the last Flash run is writing this. So if you like the last Flash run, I think it's a very similar writing style in this book. So the artwork is pretty solid too. So I'd say
again, this was one of those issues where I was like,
do I want
it? Bought all those books, and I was like, I don't think I can.
And it's an unknown. Yeah, exactly. You don't know if it's going to be good or not. Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's talk about the Incredible Hulk issue 5. So Brant didn't read this one, but once again, Nick Klein is not on this book this time around. I
don't mind it for this arc, though. I think it works.
Yeah, it's not as solid, but it does work for this arc. I know Nick Klein is coming back. He's just not on this arc. Very grotesque in a lot of ways and very dark. But it's an interesting story about what was it, about that creature that would like mimic all the people that were important in the people's lives, and it was pretty interesting. I mean, where do we go from here, though? Like, I'm not quite sure,
Well,
like
they kind of allude. So in the end, Betty comes into the picture.
Harpy.
Yeah, Harpy comes into the picture, and she's like, hey, I found the scientist who could separate the Hulk and Bruce. You want to come with, and you want to figure out who this guy is.
Right, and she's like, I suggest you take the deal.
Yeah. So that was I'm always glad to see Betty, but and as a Harpy. But yeah, it's like, oh wow, that's going in a really interesting place. I really like this book a lot. It's one of my favorite Marvel books. I think every issue moves pretty well. The horror vibe works, and then right when you think, okay, where can this go? It shows you where it's gonna go. I think this is a really interesting premise. So no, I liked it. I think it was a good issue.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know where it's gonna go. That's good. It's not predictable. But you're right about when it came to Betty being in there. I was like, oh shit. Like, but I don't know if he's gonna take the bait. I don't know if he's gonna do it.
I don't know either.
Maybe that's what leads to them to actually fight.
I think it'd be interesting to see them both fight, and I'm curious to see what the girls' places in all this, because we know she's kind of got a checkered past as well. Will she become a monster?
She was hurting though when she lost her brother, because she blames herself on the death of the of the brother. It was kind of a sad moment. So but yeah, it's a good book, man. It really is.
I like it a lot as well.
All right, so here we go. We got Kill Your Darlings issue 2. We all read that book. We loved issue 1. I like this issue too. I don't know if you guys liked it as much. I did like it. I like seeing where it's later now. She's older and she winds up in a psychiatric ward, and it's supposed to rehabilitate her, and and she's got her friend that comes and visits, and they play like magic cards, and I thought that was really cool. It still humanizes the character, and then she plans like an escape to go hang out with him at night, and then all of a sudden she sees like the pink elephant like night guy, and she's like, or he's like, come with me, queen, you gotta go back to your place. And then the friend sees him too, and he's like, is that a pink elephant I see? She's like, he's like, it's an elephant pig or whatever it is. Dude, I was dying at that part. I thought that was so funny. It's a good book, man. I really love this story. I cannot wait to see, the continuation of this, where they go. But I guess they're going to go back to the house, right? Because that's where the kingdom supposedly is.
I'm sure they would, and what that house looks like, because it burnt down. So what is the house? Yeah, no, I really like this issue in a different way that I liked issue 1, because I think issue 1 was the perfect issue 1, but this was the perfect issue 2, and issue 2s are freaking hard. First of all, especially when you have such a good issue 1, where you set the premise, you're like, this is what the book's about. And so many times when you read issue 2, you're like, oh, so where do you go from there? You just kind of go from point A to point B, like, constantly. But this book moves. It first of all, because you have obviously the time jump, but like you said, the characters work here. You learn a little bit more about her. She's older, but she still has that friend, and then the friend sees the elephant, and then it brings you to a place where you're like, no, now the next issue is going to look completely different. And I think it's obvious we're going to see more time jumps, because I knew when it was the 90s, I was like, okay, either they're really playing with the 90s or they're going to make her older. And now that we got that gap, she's like, oh, we're going to get to the present at some point and see what that's about. Yeah, I really like this book. It's been a long time since I've read a book like this, and I hope issue 3 and 4 continues to be as good. But I think as an issue 2, this was perfect.
Yeah, I love that you didn't know. Like, you didn't know back then, you didn't know now. Like, is this world real? Did she actually cause the fire and all this stuff? And through most of this issue, you're still questioning it. And then when he sees the elephant thing, it's like, oh, okay, that's where we're going. All right, either that or they're both crazy.
Right.
so we still don't 100% know, but it's fun. It's structured so well. The characters are so, you're just pulled into each one of them, and I think that's so hard to do, is like make you care about multiple characters and make you care about what happens to them like that early on. And I think this book has done a great job of that.
You already care about the two best friends relationship,
right? Exactly.
And let me tell you, if this took a 3-month break, I would care to read issue 3. Like, even if it's 3 months, I'd be like, what's going to happen next?
Because also though, about the thing about this story is there's not a lot of characters right now.
Right.
So like where in the Local Man comic, there's a whole team involved. There's a guy that, recently got back into town. There was a mystery going on with people getting murdered. There's a lot going on in that comic.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Here, it's just, there was a fire, right? We don't know if she killed the mom or not. She had this imaginary kingdom. She was in the Looney bin, and now she's escaped, right? And you could remember that. I mean, that's pretty easy right now. I mean, and we do know that she's somehow connected to some past, because they keep flashing back to the very like beginning of time of all this situation too.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
So very, very cool.
I was just looking up to see when the end of the arc happens. Actually, issue 4. So we have next issue and the issue after that, and the end of the arc happens in December. So we'll see. So I was like, oh, is this an ongoing book, or is it just a mini series?
Yeah.
I guess it's an ongoing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go on to number 4. Kat, what was your number 4?
Mine was Hulk. We already talked about it.
Brant, what was your number 4?
Jay Garrick, The Flash.
Well, talked about that one too. 20-something comics. There's comics we already talked about.
I know. It's
a lot of mine fell in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was Hack and Slash, Back to School.
not read that.
I'm excited to talk about this because as a hack and slash fan, I didn't like this issue. So I'm excited to hear from a non-hack, like
That's
someone
funny.
who didn't read the previous stuff.
So I can understand why people might not like this, say a traditional hack and slash fan, because it's not the same.
No.
It's different. It's way different. Even the art is different. Everything about it is different. And this is the first hack and slash book that I've read in almost 10 years. So it's been a long time. But what I did like about this is that I like how she's going to this school and it's a past story and she's meeting other people. I thought the artwork at first wasn't going to be for me because it's like almost, it's a little bit cutesy, right? In a way. It's more
It reminds me a lot of
cartoony.
that video game, No More Heroes, I think it's called. I don't know if you guys ever played it, but it's like it kind of reminds me of that style. It's
Right.
very anime.
Yeah. But it grew on me as I read it. You know what I'm saying? So even though like there was a lot of books this week that were very mediocre to me. So I wouldn't say that this was like the best book that I read, right? Ever. But I did think that it did pique my interest and I want to see if it does get better. I do like how she's gone to this school and there was this leader in charge of other slashers and whatnot. So I don't know. I'm not sure about the human guy though, like the Vlad guy.
Oh, he's always part of. So he's just like her sidekick. He's just like
okay.
That's like
I guess this was the time when she just met him then. Because in the book she explained like I just met him yesterday. So this is literally when she just met him.
Which I think is the part where I was like, wow, it's so weird because hack and slash has been going on for so long. We're like, oh, we're going back here. That's strange, I guess works if you're a new reader. And I think it just took too long to get to the school. Like I was expecting them to be there on page 1. And I was like, all right, we're going to
get that. I totally get that. Yeah.
And I think that threw me off a little bit. I love the art though. I thought the art was good, but I don't know. I just don't know if it really added anything to the story for me either. I was like, oh, this feels so like one and done, lost episode. Like as a fan, I just like, I don't know if I need to pick up the next issue, but I'm also hope it brings more people to the franchise. I'm not saying I'm the biggest hack and slash fan ever. Like I think it's a fun series, but I have not read every issue. But it's interesting to see them revitalize this series. And I think also they're doing like a crossover somewhere else. They're definitely like he's definitely like, hey, I'm done writing this character, but other people can now.
Yeah. I'm curious to see. I'll give it another issue, see where it goes from here. You know, I mean, I obviously you can tell like number 5 was Godzilla and number 4 is hack and slash. So it's not my traditional things, but I tell you, man, I was looking at all these books and I'm like mediocre for me. Oh, you know what? I just missed it. I would have put World's Finest in its place. And I totally overlooked
World's Finest, and I'm guessing we're going to talk about it in a bit. But
yeah,
I don't know if I want to drop this book or not. I really like the beginning of this book, but even the villain from that first story, I don't know much about Kingdom Come. If I read it, it was a long time ago, and it's so multiverse driven. I'm like, I just don't know where this book is going anymore. I'm just not having as fun as I used to with the book.
I don't know anything about Kingdom Come. I never even read it. But when I read this book, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I found it interesting. I guess we can just talk about it now. I just found it interesting that they would travel to this Earth 22, and then Earth 22 has no recollection of there being other Earths. I thought that was quite different, right? And then they come across Boy Thunder, and you're waiting for it. Like, obviously he's going to be evil. But I love like the hope that Superman had. Like, he's just like, oh my God, look who it is. And then he like is shocking him to death. And I was like, Superman, you're a fool for believing that he's going to be okay. I mean, think about all the time that you left him on his own. He thinks you betrayed him, man. So I thought that was cool. I like this book. I do. When the story is done well, and it's not like filler stories. So this is a main story, and I think obviously things are going to pick up here.
Yeah, I don't remember like if there was a multiverse at the time Kingdom Come came out, and maybe that's why they don't remember it. I do think it's cool that Mark Waid is revisiting a story that he crafted so long ago. I think that's cool, and it's basically an unofficial sequel, or I guess it is official, but you know what I mean. It's not like a big deal like Kingdom Come.
No, it's not called Kingdom Come Part 2.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I hate the character of that he becomes, and he was in JSA for a while, and I just hate that character. So that's the thing that brings me out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Once I found out that's who he was, it was like, oh man. So, but at the same time, it's like in Kingdom Come, he was like a major threat. So it's interesting to revisit that world if you are familiar with it. But I agree with you all. I like other stories that we've read in this book better than this one, but I thought this was a fine issue. It just wasn't the best of it for me.
Gotcha. All right, cool. And what was your number 4, Brent?
My number 4 was Jake Garrett, The Flash.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so now we're moving on to Catwoman. Yeah, Catwoman issue 58.
I mean, the premise almost of this cast was going to be, is Gotham more good? And I continue to say no. It's so interesting because there's elements here that are almost good. Like when Catwoman and Batman are talking, I'm like, whoa, this is so good. The art's so good. And then it just throws that away and nothing happens.
Yeah, it's like immediately, no, we got to deal with this. We can't talk.
Right.
It's
like
just
any potential of any good story just scratches like 2 pages in every issue of Gotham War. It almost happens every single time. And it's so unsatisfying.
It just doesn't mesh well. Catwoman
I agree.
and Batman comic, they don't go together. It's written so differently in my eyes. Like, I just don't like the way Batman is written in Batman, and I don't like the way he's written. Like, he's written differently in Batman than he's written in Catwoman. He's much more edgier in Batman.
I also just think it's a plot progression. I don't think this book moves. I don't know what's really about, honestly.
But you don't know what's really going on at the same time either. Like, it's just like Batman's all unhinged in Batman, and in Catwoman, he's like practically having sex with her in a garbage dump. Like what's going on?
It's it is. Yeah, you're right. And they could explain it away with that other personality underneath, but I agree. I overuse this word, I think, but I think it's disjointed. It's not meshing well. Like you said, it's just not flowing well. And it's like, okay, here's this part, here's this part, here's that part. And it's just kind of smashed together, forced together, and it doesn't feel natural or organic or anything. And yeah.
And then you got Jason, who's like, he's supposedly petrified in fear, but yet he still goes and manages to go into a fire to try to rescue.
Just can't get out. Yeah.
And then he can't get out. And then he's just lying there. Don't you think,
like, so stupid.
Don't you think like he would be burning up at that point? By the time they actually reach to him, he's just like,
it's like, I overcome my fear long enough to get in the building, but then it's like, no, look, I'll lay down and die now.
It's so bad. It's so really, really not good. I just, and then we discussed it. It's like a Vandal Savage story now. That's what it's become. So it went from Catwoman stealing from the rich to now Vandal Savage trying to get meteors that give him immortality, and he wants all 3 pieces. So now it's like forming the Triforce in Legend of Zelda.
I don't know if you popped that up, Kat, but if you did, I missed it.
I did, but it's still a funny comment.
In the garbage. Key issue. Oh god. So yeah, it's just one of those stories that we're just going to have to forget that it ever exists. This hopefully we'll definitely get a better Batman story in the future. I guess this was a ploy to try to get you to buy more Catwoman. I guess that's just
absolutely
right.
No question.
Gosh. Yep.
And trust me, when
Right.
Gotham War is over, I'm not buying Catwoman.
Oh yeah, me either. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll see a dip in sales.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 11. So obviously Brant and I continue to read this book. Not my favorite issue from this one, but it was it had a little bit of a creepy element as we were talking about Halloween today, as we basically see Miles Morales team up with Blade and Blade's daughter in this one, and they come across this crazy vampire-like creature, and the new speedster that's in the Miles book. What's her name? Oh, I forgot. Hightail winds up just going crazy and gets caught in the crossfire, and she winds up becoming a vampire. That's basically what the comic is. And Miles wound up donning this new like Blade suit, which I thought was a little cheesy in my eyes.
It was so cheesy. Blade's like, you can't go hunting with us. Here, let me magic you a new suit. It's like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not necessary, man.
No.
I'm like, I don't know what we're doing with that, but this, for me, this was like the weakest issue that they came out with for this series so far. And there was a lot of like over explanation of just like what vampires are and everything in the first like 3 pages. I'm like, man, come on, let's go.
This book is generally good. There are a lot of good elements about it. The art is fantastic as well, but I don't know that all that stuff you mentioned, the cheesy costume change, and then ever since they introduced the mental health stuff, the way it's handled, I've not been happy with. Like I talked about it last issue. This issue, he references it again in inner monologue. He's like, I just got to breathe like I was taught. That does wonders. And it was just like this really glazed over, oh, this one simple trick is going to change all my problems. And it was like, no.
He's like, yeah,
so
I've been dealing with my spider sense. He's like, I get to breathe inhale and I breathe exhale. And I'm like,
and now it's all fixed. It's like,
and he's just, and he's literally talking about it. I'm like, this is not good. Just stop talking right now. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. But overall, the like most of the book is good. It's just, I guess, you know, we're in Halloween time, we got to do that spooky book, and this is their attempt at doing it. I just don't think it works. I think Cody Ziegler could do something better than that, or he really can't write Blade, you know. So
Blade's daughter was in this though, Kat.
Yeah,
May I should pick it up?
She was there.
She didn't really do all that much.
I'm glad she still exists as a character.
Yeah.
All right, so we got for you guys, we got Click Click Boom issue 5.
The last issue. I really like the book. I thought it stuck the landing for me. I mean, it's mostly what you would expect. It's them fighting the bad guy, and they end up being friends and kind of walking to the sunset. Really good art. There's a lot of action in this issue. I like it. I thought it was a really solid series. If you didn't read it, I felt like it was very unique. Because the main character talks through pictures and doesn't talk other than that. So it's a cool, I want to say buddy cop type book. So check it out.
It is. Yeah. And I think her name's Sprout. I always forgot it. And then I think I remembered it, but it was okay. I didn't love this issue, maybe because it was just kind of, you know,
there wasn't anything explosive.
Right off in the sunset. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it wasn't my favorite issue, but it was a solid ending. It was a complete story, you know.
And I don't know their relationship by the end, you know, and not saying romantically, but just in general, like I don't know where they really stand.
Exactly. But you know, you're happy for the characters at the end. I guess that's what you can, you know, take away from it. They've got their justice and all that. So
all right, cool. All right, so let's talk about number 3. What do you got, Brant, for number 3?
Local Man. We already talked about it.
All right. Kat?
Mine is Click Click Boom. We literally already talked about
that. Mine was Kill Your Darlings.
Nice.
Issue 2.
So I see where top 2 is going to be.
All right. And then we'll find out soon. But I can tell you it's not Nightwing, issue 107.
No, you know what's so sad about Nightwing is that I actually thought the last issue was okay because I was like, oh, they're doing something different, and then this nothing continues to happen. They like do a flashback of Rick, and then it's like, oh, this is how they know each other, and then I guess now Oracle's not going to communicate with Nightwing because of the circumstances, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of it.
I actually like the issue.
You like this one?
Yeah, it's not my top 5 or anything like that crazy, but I thought it was a decent issue. I thought it was a fun issue. I thought the reason that he's in that outfit was kind of funny. I'm curious to see why he couldn't jump off to save the person. Like, what stopped him in his tracks?
Right.
I like that he's separated because now it's, he doesn't have that, backup, and he's just kind of off on his own. You don't know what's going to happen. I thought the flashback to the Rick stuff was fine because, it set up how they're together right now and how they're going to interact and stuff. And I don't know. I thought it was a fine issue as its own thing, like not connected to anything else, ignoring that it's part, that there's supposed to be these other stories going on in Nightwing as a story in and of itself. I thought it was,
it was
fun.
better than the Titans arc for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just was like, I'm not a fan of like, I guess, pirate stuff. So this turns me off from the start.
Gotcha.
I was just like, oh, he finds this how corny for me. Like he found this suit and he happens to put on the wrong one, and then he's like, then he's gonna stay that way. And I was like, but again, I was just like, he looks dumb. I don't like that suit, so I don't like it. And then he doesn't have his mask, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the female either. Like, I'm not a huge fan of her.
I like the reason she made him keep it on, though. I thought that was funny.
I mean,
you're gonna look like a romance novel now. So
I like how they didn't forget about her. Like she's not a
that was cool,
character, right? But
for sure.
At the same time, I just like I don't know if I really care about her. I don't know, man. And all of a sudden, she's somebody that's much more important.
The Rick Grayson arc didn't make her. I mean, she was the most important element of that, but she wasn't. She really was just a girlfriend. She didn't really. I think she like pushed him a little bit to be like, no, you should like discover your past. Like I remember that about her, but there was never like. She's not like Alyssa, the roommate of Barbara, who's so involved in the adventures of Barbara Gordon. It's like,
I don't know, man. I just look at Nightwing and I don't see him as a pirate. I guess that's just where I'm at with it. It's tough. I'm really struggling with this title right now for me. It's just.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
There's nothing accomplished out of it. There's nothing accomplished in this whole thing.
It's just,
go ahead, Brent.
I was just gonna say it's still just all over the place.
Yeah,
I'll give you that for sure. Yeah.
And you could say that you think it's about character work because I'm cool with a book just being about character work. Again, I like books like Runaways and I enjoy things like that, but there's not even like a lot of character growth in every issue. It's just like a lot of kind of just nonsense being back and forth,
and a lot of holding patterns for all those subplots.
Yeah, like the Heartless thing, he came back and now he's gone again, and then it's just like I thought the book was best when it was Nightwing at Bloodhaven. He was teaming up with Barbara. Haley was in there, and they were just
2 years
doing all that stuff, and that just took like a complete back seat. And now it's just, I don't know, it just, like you said, it's a holding paddle. It feels so stagnant. It's such a stagnant book, so
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'll continue to read it just because I've read the entire Tom Taylor run. I want to see what he tries to accomplish with it by the time he is done with it.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's been, I think, about 30 issues. So it's a pretty long run.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. It's time. Sensational She-Hulk, Volume 2, Issue 1.
So interesting about this issue. When I finished reading it, I was reading some of the comments in the group chat, the group for Mike's channel. Yeah, the Facebook group, and so many people love this issue and said, "Wow, She-Hulk is great now." I'm like, it's
the same
same
book.
thing.
It's the same exact book.
It's like literally the same book, except this one is like maybe some people haven't read the last volume, so let's squeeze everything that's ever happened in that volume and not really move anything else. I did not like this issue.
I hated this issue. I freaking it's so frustrating. Like, okay, no, hate's a strong word. I don't say I hate this. I think when I graded it, I gave it an average grade. I think
it's an average book.
Because what it does is it tries to get new readers on board. If you did not read the last series, but for current readers and you're expecting something new or different or fresh, there's nothing there for you.
Except that's maybe the end that Hulk shows up, but then other than that,
but
very last page, and you're just like, okay, so you just spent all that money reading something that you already knew. Now I want to know, for new readers with this comic book, I felt like it did a decent job at catching you up, but I still think you might have felt a little bit overwhelmed of everything that did happen, especially the relationship aspect with Jack of Hearts, right? So, and I'm guys, I am really tired of the Jack of Hearts, the on again, off again thing. It's like every other issue. Oh, I think I love him. Oh, I don't think I love him. Or I want to be with him, or whatever it is. Jack of Hearts, you need to solve your problem, dude. So you can just constantly hook up with She-Hulk and be done with it. It's just like, I'm over this.
I would be more okay with their relationship if there was one way or the other of like, they're in a relationship or they're
let
not.
them be with each other or not. Like, move on.
Yeah, if it was, it's like it's almost literally every other issue they're changing. We're together, not together. And if they're doing a Ross Rachel kind of thing, they need to be together for a bit, then break up, then get back together. Not just like
even within the same issue, they were already having problems.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a complicated book because it's like, I don't, like you said, I don't hate the book. It's just I wish I loved the book. It's just kind of there, and they're in almost the same way Nightwing is there.
Like,
unfortunately.
So like the whole Fight Club thing, like how long is that going to go on for? Because that's dumb. And the page where you actually finally see her get to do her job, she's talking to these deviants, and I did not care about those deviants either. And that took 3 or 4 pages of the comic book to get through that part.
I think they had to hit every mark they had from the previous series. I think that's really why we saw, like, again, we saw her at the office, we saw the Jack of Hearts, we saw the Fight Club, and then we saw the cliffhanger. It's literally like, we got to catch you up with everything that has happened in that previous arc.
Talk about a bloated issue.
Yeah.
But why restart it?
I
get that #1 issue sales.
I think so. It's interesting. We don't know the sales for this book. But I'm curious if, like, is this higher sales than, like, say something like Runaways, which I think was a much stronger book. I don't know. I guess it is if they're doing a volume 2.
I would say it is because more people know
Jen.
She-Hulk.
Jennifer
Walters.
I would also say to get that sensational name on there, to hearken to fans of the John Byrne era.
But then even so, it's not like there's like a show coming. The show already existed, and I don't think they're going to do more with that. Like, unless there was something happening with Hulk recently, it's just like, I don't know. It's a weird. Also, couldn't you just name a sensational She-Hulk and keep the numbering?
Right.
Yeah. You could have just changed it or added it to it. It did not make sense to come out with how many issues were there? 15?
Yeah, there was enough.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get you start over, right? Even at a new story arc or whatever it is, sometimes when you're done telling your story, but nothing changed here. It was completely the same.
The arc was never over.
Yep. I don't know. So I was very disappointed with that. And for the first time, I feel like you guys actually agree with me on this aspect. She-Hulk.
This one was an easier one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because usually
Yeah.
there's like at least something that's like a little new, or be like, oh, that was a cute scene, but there wasn't much new.
Right.
Here.
Yeah, I think we were all expecting something, you know,
No.
something to change the status quo a little bit at least. But I guess that's going to come an issue 2 with the Hulk, but that's not
Hopefully.
enough.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. All right. We talked about hack and slash. So let's move on to number 2. What was your number 2, Brett?
Kill Your Darlings.
Gotcha. What about you, Kat?
Mine is The Flash, Jay Garrick.
All right. You ready for my number 2?
Yeah.
Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Really?
I heard a lot of buzz about that one.
I was really intrigued by this book, but I saw the art and I just could not get it.
Did you read? Oh, you didn't read it?
No, I didn't like the art. I was like, I can't sit through that.
I looked at it too, and I was debating, and then the guy that works at the comic shop said, Mike, you got to read this book. And I was like, all right,
for really interesting concept. Yeah.
For worthy ones, I'll definitely read it. And
before you start, it's the contrast that pulled me in initially. It's because it's like anthropomorphic, cutesy characters, and it's a very dark theme. So go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So, people told me it's almost like Dexter, but but that way. But very interesting story about this female bear that lives in this small town city, and they go to her for everything, and then she goes to the big time city and she goes, yeah, there's lots of people here. And she kind of ploys a person into her car and she kind of like drugs them. And then she brings them back to the small town and she like dissects them. And she cuts them up into little pieces, puts them in paint cans. She just like does it in such a methodical way. And then she buries the person. And like, again, all these different aspects, like it's so interesting. And then she just goes about going around her business, and in the meantime, you get to see her operate in her business and all this other things. And there was this town parade that they were preparing for. Well, someone wound up getting murdered in their town. And now that people are actually going to investigate this murder, they feel like now she's going to be caught because she buries all the people in the small town. So there's going to be all these investigations. And you find out that in this comic, she's been doing these murders for 2 decades.
Wow.
So it's insane.
Dark for a kitty looking book.
It is. Yes. And that's what gives it its own distinctive feel, right? You're like, oh, it's little cutesy animals like Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that. And then you see this nice looking woman bear and she's killing people, like serial killing stuff. I said it in my review. I was like, I almost felt wrong reading this comic book because it's just that dark. Yeah. But definitely different. I say read this book though, if you're looking for a different type of book.
Okay.
I don't usually like animal books, but it sounds interesting. I don't even think I like Lion King as a movie, but it's not my favorite Disney movie because I don't love animal stories that often. So I didn't even I have Stray Dogs, but I don't even think I've read it fully. But I think Stray Dogs is the limit of my animal story because I'm like, okay.
I mean, these people are more like humans, right? They wear clothes and they drive cars, and stuff like that. So, and the funny thing is there's actually like real bears in the comic itself.
That's funny.
So it's like Goofy and Pluto, how they're one's a dog and one's
both dogs. Yeah,
it's the same thing.
That's funny.
All right. So what was that? That was my number 2. Everyone did their number 2 now?
Yep.
Right. Yep.
All right. So we talked about Batman, Superman. We talked about Local Man. So let's do our number 1. So Kat, what was your number 1?
Mine was Kill Your Darlings.
Gotcha. Mine was Big Game, issue 4.
That makes sense.
Mine was also Big Game. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So there is that. So Stray Dogs was epic. Yes, it was, man.
I have the trade. I just don't think I finished reading it. Maybe one plane ride, I'll finish it.
when I was going through my comics through the garage sale, I came across all those books. I'm just like, oh man. And then I pulled out the issue where I have Cookie in it, my dog Cookie.
Yeah.
And I remembered now, I was like, I marked it and I said, Cookie makes her first appearance in this comic. So I was like, that's cool.
I wish I got around to sending Trixie before she passed.
Oh,
would have been nice to
Have that.
memorialize her.
Yeah, that would have been cool. All right, so we did all those comics. So Brant, we're gonna pass it on to you now for the most anticipated comics.
Yeah. So these are the books that we are looking forward to and intrigued by or just curious about. So we'll put it like that. And I purposely kind of left Void Rivals off mine because I saw it on yours, Mike, and I was like, let's mix it up a little bit. So we got all kinds of books to talk about this time. And
except we all have one book in common.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and talk about that.
It's all our ranking too.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 36.
The reason I put it as number 3 is because I don't know what to expect from this arc, right? Like we all really liked the previous one. I'm like, oh, I want to see where it's going now that this really good arc ended. That's mostly why I'm anticipating it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just don't know if it. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was gonna say is like Norman at the end of that issue. Did he get some of the sins back? Because
it seemed like it. Because he laughed. He did that little giggle.
Yeah, he did that little laugh and then covered his mouth like, "Oh no." Yeah.
Yeah. So
what
are we gonna say, Brent?
I was just gonna say, we don't know like how this whole gang war thing is gonna kick off. If this is gonna be as solid as the last arc, which we all enjoyed, or if it's gonna go back to the way it was. It's just we don't know. So it's can't wait to find out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So then let's talk about Alan Scott, Kat. That's your number 2 new Green Lantern book.
I'm curious about this one. I like that DC's kind of doing a lot of these JSA books. Again, Jay Garrick surprised me. I didn't know I'd like that as much as I did. And I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Alan Scott. Also, is probably going to be an LGBTQ story, so that's going to be cool.
It definitely is. I saw the preview pages,
Right. It was at the end of the Catwoman and all that. So I think that's cool. I want to see if DC does a good job with that because I don't think they've done a wonderful job with their previous relationships. So I'm curious for this one.
Yeah, but those shorts that we saw in Alan Scott and those, I forget what, but those are really good. So I'm hoping this one will be too.
Art looks really good for it too.
Yeah.
And again, it's just characters we don't usually see from DC, which I always appreciate when they can do that. So that's why I'm anticipating it.
And there's supposedly a Red Lantern in this book too. So
that's cool too.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you got Gunslinger Spawn, big Gunslinger fan. Number 25, man. That's been going on for a while.
Yeah, right. That's hard to believe already. So 25 issues of Gunslinger. It's really good. I say it all the time. We're going to learn more about this character, the supporting character by the name, I think his name is Taylor. He's got something going on with him. I don't know if it's a sickness or not, but he was originally related to the bad guys in this comic book when the comic book first started, and all these bad guys wind up getting killed, and he's been tagging with Gunslinger. So it'll be curious to see where that goes. But this book is just top-notch comic book for the price. I mean, it's a little bit less of a page count. It's only 24 pages, but for $2.99, you just can't beat it, man. You just cannot beat it. So I'm excited.
It's a good price. So mine is Radiant Black 26 and 26.5. I don't know if you guys knew there was an additional issue coming out.
Yeah,
I did, and I think that's such confusing marketing. Like the original one, the one from last time, I didn't pick up both issues because I didn't know you needed to. And then I learned that you needed to. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if everyone's gonna pick up on this unless they're on the internet.
I didn't even know until last week that this was coming out. I really didn't. So it took me completely by surprise. So now go ahead.
I think it was delayed, Brant. I think because when I was doing my anticipated videos and I was putting the list together, like it showed just 26 coming out, and then they pushed it back by a couple weeks originally.
Okay, gotcha. So now they're just coming out on the same day.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Because it's two
Gotcha.
different points of views, right? That's basically what it is.
But then I don't even know how much
Yeah.
is different. That's gonna be interesting because it's like my guess is only a few pages are gonna be different. So it's like,
I agree.
do I want to read the same book twice? It's gonna be a really
Right.
interesting read.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice to make with it, especially in the middle of this big arc. So I don't know, but I'm curious to see.
He hasn't let
And
us down in this series,
True.
really. So he tries to do things a little bit different and puts twists and spins on the comic. So we'll see.
Yeah.
He's done these gimmicks, right? Like he does
Sure.
the QR codes at the end and did the short movie, the black light issues. Like, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Wonder Woman #2 is on your list, Kat. So
I've
what
been
are
hearing
you
a lot of
most
hype about
anticipating?
it. What?
Okay.
Well, that's A.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
And then B, like I was just pleasantly surprised by issue 1. I just like want to see
Yeah.
where the series is going. The art's really good. Tomorrow's an interesting week for comics because I was saying there's so many books coming out, but there's not any like huge books coming out. So it was a weird anticipated to put together.
Yeah. If everybody thinks I'm over talking everybody, I think I'm on a slight delay somehow, and I think it's causing issues. It's been doing it all show long, so I apologize. But anyway,
first of all, no worries. But also, B,
Yeah.
there's 3 of us. We're gonna be over talking each other every
Yeah.
once in a while.
I just feel like I've done it more than it seems I should have this episode, and I don't. It's not intentional. But anyway,
You're good.
Yeah. Captain Marvel is mine just because I'm curious about it. I want to see if it's good. I don't know what to expect from this one. I haven't really enjoyed the minis, so yeah, I just don't know what's gonna happen, or the mini in one shot, I guess.
Who writes this?
I don't even remember. There goes that one. We'll see how long the other one lasts.
Mine died an hour ago, so you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's writing it either, but I'm picking it up. Like you said, when's the last time we enjoyed Captain Marvel? Last time I enjoyed Captain Marvel was that story about her mom, and that was like 5 years ago.
You like some issues from the Kelly Thompson's run, though?
Yeah.
No, I dropped Kelly Thompson's run, and believe it or not, Kelly Thompson's run. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, I did drop it, but
you dropped it, but you did like some issues from it, though.
You're right. The beginning I liked a lot. I liked her sister. You're right about that.
Yeah.
This is Alyssa Wong who's writing it.
Alyssa Wong. I know the writer, but I don't know what she.
I'm not picking it up.
You're not gonna even try it out?
No.
Look, there's a lot of books out, so I understand.
Yeah, there's no way.
Writing Spirit World for DC and Dr. Aphra.
Oh wow!
No,
So I have no experience there.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
I did not like Spirit World. I definitely don't like Dr. Aphra.
Yeah, so now I'm a little less. I don't know. I'm gonna try it out, but yeah,
it's a mini series, right?
No, it's an ongoing. I think.
Oh, it is?
This one's an ongoing. Yeah.
Oh.
Now you'll
get to issue 6 maybe. And they'll be like,
who knows how long it'll last?
The mini series you've been waiting for is over.
Yeah. Then finally, Void Rivals is Mike's, which obviously I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, penultimate of the arc apparently. Yeah.
What's that?
I said penultimate of the arc apparently.
Yeah. Yep. I'm so curious. I know, like, I like to save good books to the end or towards the end of my pile, but this is a book that I cannot not wait. It will be the first book I read.
Agreed. This is one of those for me as well. It's like I can't wait to read this book. Yeah. So that's it. That's all I'm most anticipated. Yep.
All right. So that's it, man. Hate, very strong word. It's middle of the road. I'm beyond ready for them to get their act together.
Oops.
I get she is relationship phobic, but put her in therapy and let's get a new storyline. What are we talking about there?
I think She-Hulk.
Oh, okay. He's behind then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant to pull that in as a background, not an overlay. Sorry about that.
That was fun though. We were talking off.
All of a sudden we were blue.
So that's it, right? We're all done.
We are. And a reminder: next week we will not be on because of Halloween, but we'll be back.
Yeah,
the week after.
Right.
So
that's why we kind of had this little Halloween episode today to talk about the different types of, horror comics and video games and movies and stuff like that. So
We would have been
hopefully you
on
guys,
if it wasn't exactly on Halloween.
yeah, exactly. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. Thank you so much for watching, whether it's live or post live. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks. But until then, make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Weekly's YouTube channel. Also subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0, where you can also watch this podcast. And don't forget to hit that bell, like, and share. Like, tell your friends. Let them know that this show exists. Even though there's 1,000 other comic book podcasts and TV or shows out there, why not watch this one? Why not one more, guys?
Yeah,
Come
they
on.
don't all have Nike cap guy.
They don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Only
right?
one does.
That's right. That's right. So, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Happy Halloween and